Hello, and will I? So, I have a few things that I need to make up right now to talk about. Otherwise, I have nothing to talk about. So, number one, Unero Numo. I have already done a live stream today, and I ended it because I got tired of talking. So, two live streams in a day, that's a first. And in the last episode, I did a news update of the coronavirus. But I thought that in this episode, I will answer your questions. And in the substitute, before I have questions that I can answer, I will be answering my own questions. So, there are certain topics that I must refrain from talking about for my own well-being. One of those is coronavirus. I think I'll do a daily update, potentially, but I won't focus on it. So I'll do my daily update of coronavirus, and then I'll talk about other stuff, hopefully. So that's one thing I'm not going to talk about because I've had enough of it. Another thing that I'm not going to talk about is conspiracies, because I find them unnerving and unhelpful. I focus on my life and I focus on what I can do about my situation, and then I don't focus on things that can be potentially unsettling. But also, I'm interested in that type of thing. I find it very fascinating speculating what could be going on, what the real, true nature of society is, but I'm not going to go into that. So, what does that leave me with? Well, there's the book that I wrote, An Unbelievable God, Peter Newing, search in the Kindle store on Amazon. There's that book, and I've been reading it, and it's fairly good. But also, there are different philosophical thoughts I can have, and do you know what? I probably should not limit to what I talk about, but I understand that some things are best not to talk about. So, my life at the moment, I would say I'll just talk about whatever stuff. I can always delete the videos. Anyway, my life at the moment, I can say, is a little interesting, because I have done my life quite perfectly, to be honest. Because meanwhile, when everyone is worried about their jobs security and whether they can keep on having an income, I have chosen the very moment of my life, the 8-month period between one set of studies to the next set of studies that starts in September. I have chosen to not have an occupation, which is really good timing, because it means that I am actually able to stay at home and just enjoy myself and just chill out when I can. And I've chosen the perfect time to do that. And obviously things are outside my control, but just the way things have turned out, I can start fresh in September with the new course, and I can be of use to society then. Well, I don't know if students are of use to society, but you're learning stuff to then be of use. So I've chosen the perfect time for this coronavirus outbreak, when things are interrupting life. I haven't got a thing to interrupt. So it's really good timing. Obviously, it would be better if there was no coronavirus, but because there is a coronavirus, then I am in a position where I can just stay at home and self-isolate as much as I can, and I don't have any job to do. Because if I had a job to do, and also the stress of the virus, I don't think I could cope, to be honest. I think it would be a little hard. So I do appreciate my life at the moment and a good time with it all. But obviously there are some people who haven't timed things so well, and they do have to keep on going and persevere and work from home. And some people, even worse than that, they'll lose their job, so they aren't able to pay their bills. So all sorts of schemes about government and paying everyone their wages, where are they getting the money from, and borrowing it, and just dealing with the consequences later. But it's just a bizarre situation where people need help. We need to help each other. And the latest thing I heard was, bearing in mind I did say I wouldn't talk about stuff, but to limit yourself is to shut yourself up, which is not ideal for a podcast. The thing that I did hear is that people should stop hoarding, stop buying. But I think as much as it's good to say that, and it would be ideal if people just carried on as normal and everything was in stock, when you're faced, even having to self-isolate for 2 weeks, but in some cases self-isolating for 12 weeks. Hi? Dad? Okay, yes please. A cup's in the I put it next to the sink. Thank you. Yeah, so some people self-isolating for 12 weeks, so it's sort of sensible for them to stock up on food, and they need to buy more than normal. So you can't have the government measures of people staying at home for long periods of time and expect people not to buy more. It's crazy, because if you can't go to the shops and you need to stay at home, you need food. So that's interesting. So now we've just, at the beginning of this podcast, just said I wasn't going to talk about the coronavirus and I wasn't going to talk about conspiracies. It is now the opportune moment to go into conspiracies, but no, it's not part of my mental well-being to talk about such things. So what I can talk about is, so I'll tell you what my book's about. I have mentioned it, but I haven't said what the book's about specifically. The book is about God existing and what it means when he does exist. And those are different technicalities about how to live and what it means for God to exist, and why our lives can be more meaningful with God existing, and it all sort of exploring the different concepts. And some of the stuff that I've written is just, some of it is like quotable. If it doesn't have a spelling mistake, it's like quotable, like, oh, that's interesting. And it makes me want to keep on reading it, which I can't say for everything. So I'm pleased. I spent 29 days writing it, so I'm pleased with the final result. 29 days, 29,000 words, and I have something to to look back on and think, yeah, I've done a bit of writing. And it's nice to have like a piece of history, like a piece of evidence that you lived your life, something to pass on. Is the book on the Kindle store, and I think I am the only person that has bought it. I'll just check that, but I think I am my only customer. So the book cost 29p, and I managed to get the book cost 99p, and I managed to get 29p in royalties. Let's have a look at whether my book has sold anything. Okay, it hasn't. Doesn't look like it sold anything. If that's up to date. It says it's had one impression, which is like an advert, but that was me searching for Unbelievable God, and it came up, but I didn't click on it because with the advertising you have to pay for clicking on it. So should we could read the news again, but no, I've had enough of that. Let's get some philosophical questions, because I'm not the best when it comes to content. Philosophical questions. I don't want debate or anything. What am I doing? What is true friendship? I would say friendship is mainly keeping the other person company and having that sense of loyalty. This will speak of my age here. A sense of loyalty where you can always have lunch together. Because there is a stigma attached to people that eat lunch alone. And I have, in my past, eaten lunch alone, and it's not a great situation to be in. I used to dread lunchtime because I'd be alone, and everybody seemed to have friends. Everyone seemed to have a place in a social setting where they could go and sit and eat lunch. And I did have times where I did that too, but I sort of struggled to have people to eat lunch with. So it's a real blessing when you've got someone to eat lunch with. And I used to think this is only temporary. The eating of lunch is just a thing that will pass. And then when I was at work, I used to eat lunch alone all the time, but everyone was eating lunch alone, so it was fine. So it's interesting the special set of situations that school can happen. I get an email every time. I get an email every time I'm live, so I get notified about my own videos, which is fairly useless because I'm in the video. I don't need to watch the video, but I guess somehow I'm subscribed to myself. The Repeater now live on YouTube. The Peter Repeater number 5. Government urges people not to panic buy. Yeah, sense of loyalty in friendships. Someone you can always eat lunch with, and someone that you can always talk to, and they'll listen to you even if what you're saying is complete twaddle, that they just listen to you and go along with it. Just support each other in the nonsense that you find interesting to say, and just keep listening and talking some nonsense yourself, and just have that mutual respect that you spend lunchtime together. That's really a key feature of a good friendship. But I suppose in life, true friendship is also it's that same essence of having lunchtime together. My eyes are getting tired, but it's also having that essence of thinking in other aspects of life, just always being there and spending time and chilling out with each other, making time for each other, and then just being quite flexible in what the other person is saying and not get offended, and just someone you can be yourself around. I'd say that's a true friend. And it doesn't feel forced, and it doesn't feel like there's any effort involved. Effortless is a true friendship. Hi, thank you. Thank you very much. Do acts of kindness have a motive? Now that's interesting, because I've heard Joe Rogan, namely my favourite person possibly on YouTube, I've heard him say that he's kind, and it's more of a selfish thing, he says, because it feels good to be kind, like to give your friends elk meat that he's hunted or whatever he does. You have a real sense of positive feeling when you're kind. It's good for yourself as well as good for other people. And that whole concept, I'm not sure if you can fully be completely selfless in doing good things for other people, because there always is an element of yourself, and because if you do something good for someone else, then they'll do it good for you. It's just hard to differentiate between doing good genuinely for the other person, but it's you thinking that, so it's always from your perspective, it's always with your viewpoint that would be a good idea for the other person. So to say that has nothing to do with self-motivation is hard to differentiate, and I think that all this is questionable. I think when I do something good, I do it for the other person because I care for the other person. And I think the thing that proves that is when you do something good that inconvenience yourself. If you have to, say, give someone something that means that you do without, like sharing a drink or giving up your half of something, and you have less but the other person has more, you can't say that's selfish unless you think, oh, next time they'll give it to me. There's a fine line, as Harry Styles' song is. Now I have to admit, I haven't been doing a lot of talking recently, so it does feel quite weird talking. I find it a little unnatural, a little exhausting, because I think I do so much of what I do without talking. So I think this little setup I've got here of talking will hopefully be a good sign that I can keep on being in touch with the world and have some sort of social community. Because just imagine if this podcast had like 10 people watching, and then I've had it in the past where people have watched and Yeah, but I chose to stop. I got rid of all my videos. So at one point, I was playing Rocket League. I had like 7 people watching at one point. It's hard to imagine that now. I suppose I could have carried on, but then I wouldn't have the Peter Repeater podcast, which I think is more interesting because focusing on a game is good for me because I'm playing the game, but to watch a game is just so boring. It's not a form of entertainment, and the podcast becomes watered down because you're focusing on the game, and you have periods of time without talking, and it's just not a good podcast setup to listen to. So with that in mind, I think I will continue in the same vein and just keep on talking, just by myself, so there's something to listen to. Because I am aware that some people just want to listen to stuff, and it's more than just watching the video and being content like that. I think you want to listen to it. So this whole thing of preparing for the apocalypse or preparing for the end times, end of the world thing, it's a slippery slope. I remember in my past when I have not been quite so settled, because now I try and avoid things and keep my peace of mind. But when I wasn't quite settled and down the rabbit hole on YouTube, I would I watched a whole hour video of this guy picking things apart and making sense of the world, and I agreed with it, and it was completely conspiracy theory related. And then at the end of it, they concluded, therefore, there must be aliens on it, running everything. And it's just bizarre how I managed to follow the rabbit hole up until that point. I was like, wait a minute, this is low twaddle, this is low rubbish. So you have to be careful with the amount of conspiracy theory you open yourself up to. And I keep my conspiracy theory hunger at bay just listening to Joe Rogan, hearing it on a podcast, because they're just talking about it and having a bit of fun. They're not necessarily really believing in it, rather than just going for some American YouTuber, just going through everything and thinking all the worst things and everything, because that's not very helpful. But just a little Joe Rogan taste of the conspiracy theories is as much as I can palate at the moment. So I've done pretty well in my life. As I said, this coronavirus came at a time where I wasn't working, and I'm looking to start a degree in September. And had it been different, had I done my degree any other time than right now when I'm 22, it would have been interrupted, and that would have been awkward. But instead, hopefully things can settle down by September and I can do my studying. I do miss having structure and having something to do. Do you get that feeling when you've got stuff to do every day? You get that feeling of purpose and productivity, and your time off, that hour free, just seems to be, you seem to focus on the time you have free and really enjoy it. But whereas when I have more time now, I'm not focusing on my free time, because that's most of my time. I'm focusing on the productive time when I have to make food or something, or go out and do an errand in the car. And it's just, I'm focusing on the things I have to do. But when you're working all the time, you're focusing on the good parts, which is sort of a healthier balance of life. Because when I've got less to do, I'm focusing on the lesser parts. And I remember when there was a time I was at home before my job, where I used to really struggle just with I had two things to do every day. I had a shower and I emptied the dishwasher, and that's all I did. And that was sometimes too much. When I was working, I had a shower in the morning, and that it didn't seem a thing. It was just something quick, simple, because you had so much to do in a day. You had like 7.5 hours of work to do, 9 to 5 or half an hour lunch sort of thing. And it's just bizarre how you adapt to having to do things. And I think it's really just shows you the ability of a human to do stuff. And when you're in a situation where you have to do stuff, you just do it. But now, like even now, I'm thinking I've got to drive somewhere on Monday. And that's all I'm doing in that day, really. Apart from making food and stuff, all I have to do is make that one journey, probably take an hour to get there and back, and that's all it is. And I used to do that after work, and now it just seems now I've got to do that, and now I'm not as comfortable driving because I don't do it every day, and things just seem more. So I do miss that sense of just the free time when it's not all the time, when you've got less of it. You somehow enjoy it more and you really look forward to it. Like this evening, I'm going to have a couple of hours before I go to sleep, and I get to watch stuff, listen to a podcast, and that's just something that happens every day, and I used to really enjoy that, really look forward to it, and that used to keep me motivated. And now it's just it's just time for bed. It's not as interesting as it once was. Sometimes with my camera, it chooses to turn off, so every like half hour I have to switch it back on, but you know there's a microphone that's still on, so it's not the end of the world. It's not a complete blackout, but it's just my setup. It works. It's not perfect. The quality, it works. Like that, the gaming situation, that was hard to get going. That often didn't work. The game would freeze. I had another channel called Gamecast Daily, and it would just always freeze, and it wouldn't work, and the frame rate would be rubbish. It'd be pixelated. But this just seems to work. Like it says it's 1080p, but it's not. When it goes through the camera and everything, and it gets onto the internet, it's less quality. The lighting isn't as good. It's not quite as crisp, but it's manageable. It's doable for my level of audience. It's fine. You can hear me. I can talk, and that's life at the moment. So I just think why sometimes when I was at school, everything was about the exams, and I wanted to get the best grade possible, and that's all that mattered to me. And I thought once I get the grades I want, then I'll be so happy and life would be so much better. And it's just not the case. It matters so little after you get the results. Like, yep, those are my results. You do have a sense that you could have done better. It really doesn't impact your life that much. Like for example, my GCSEs didn't go as planned because I had 2 knee operations just before my exams. I had a knee operation 10 days before my exam. So when I should have been in school revising and at home working hard, I was going to a knee operation and coming home and just making YouTube videos, just talking to the camera, and that's all I did on this channel. And so the GCSEs, I didn't do the best I could because of that. And then also the my A-levels, I did the best I could. And I do have a sense of satisfaction that I did well at A-levels. but it's not as good as you think it will be. You think your life will be solved when you get the grades you want. You think everything will be solved. It doesn't resolve itself. Life still goes on. You still have to brush your teeth. You still have to go to work. You still have to do stuff. And I just think they place so much unnecessary pressure on getting the best grades. And everything's about the grade, and that's all that matters. When really, in the whole grand scheme of things, A-level results are just trivial. They don't matter that much. Like, I went to a couple of job interviews and they said, you got great A-level results. Really impressive. You don't have the skills for the job, so you're not going to get it. I'm glad that happened, because it meant I rethought my life and went off to university. But the good thing about my university is that I get to live at home and I still get to go. And yeah, that's the thing, is that when I do go to university and go every day, that the drive will just be trivial. It won't matter. It's something that I do every day and I'll just get used to it. But making that drive now is just the most arduous, time consuming event ever, and I'll be doing it daily when I study. So yeah, I just hope that I can not focus on things that I have to do and focus on the things that I like doing, like having free time in the evening and just being able to just have a good life and focus on stuff. Is my microphone on? Yeah, it is. It's got the green light. Hear the creaking of my chair and stuff. So it's just interesting time to be alive, and it's good timing for me. Some people it's horrific timing, but for me it's good timing. I've said it before, but just the very moment I have 8 months free, there's a pandemic. It's just beautiful timing, really. And I hope I can go and study. Does fate exist? And I have a tendency to think that it does exist. That I think that people have a plan for their lives and it follows a plan. And I think things happen for a reason. And I think that in essence that could just be a manifestation of reacting to your situation and making the best of everything, and things just tend to work out. Because when something bad happens, the next thing you do, how you react to it, like me not getting a job, I react to it by going to university, and you think, oh, that all happened for a reason. There's just the whole mechanism of just making the best of each situation you have. And I think it's more than that. I think there is a plan for people's lives and things happen for a reason, and I think you're able to cope with what you can manage most of the time, which is good, because everything I've been through, like I've had mental health problems and stuff, and just eating alone at lunchtime, everything I've been through I've got through, and I'm still alive here talking today. So I just think things have worked out for me and things continue. And I have moments where I get worried and anxiety, and the world just seems to stop and I can't focus on anything and stuff like that. But really, whatever happens, life continues. As long as you keep on living, but most of the time that does happen too. So you just think, well, you're just going to get through it. Tomorrow will be another day. You'll keep on fighting. No matter how bad the situation is, there will be something still to do. And work was so weird. It was such a mind-boggling thing. Just turning up, sit down, do something productive, and then just keep on doing that. And that was just the variety. Even if you're doing English and then history and then maths, even if you hate all those subjects, at least you've got a different thing to do after an hour and 40 minutes. That's like such a privilege, being able to change what you're doing and just have something different than just sitting at your desk. So I've had a little taste of what it's like at school and at work, and I have a taste at university, and hopefully I can make a good thing out of my life. I hope this Peter podcast goes well. I just think I would just do it as much as possible. Yeah, and just hopefully people can watch when they can. And hopefully I build an audience, but I'm aware that if you delete all your videos and then start again and leave your audience without videos for months and don't put the work in, the attention's going to die down and people aren't going to notice. But I thought if there's any chance of people watching my channel that has some ancient subscribers from another time where I did dance videos, but just where I've still got a subscriber base that have a small chance of me popping up on their YouTube if they happen to be online and stuff like that. I think YouTube is so brutal, it doesn't prioritize subscribers anymore. It's all about your recommended videos. So really, most of the time, I won't get to people, but even then, I'm just happy with just talking for myself for now, and if people watch, that's also great. I'll be pleased about that. And if I keep on repeating the Peter when I can, hopefully I can get a real sense of purpose and I'll get a viewership. That'd be quite nice. I'm not sure if I can manage if I had 100 people watching me. Could I cope with the pressure? But we don't have to worry about that because nobody is watching me. Maybe one person. That's what I think anyway. But if you are that one person watching, I am very pleased that you took the time to click on the video and watch some of this, however briefly. There is a temptation to stop recording, but I know that I'm just going to get bored and I'll upload another video later on, which might not be such a bad thing, but I like it if I can keep talking for some more if I can. This is an interesting one. What is human consciousness? Wow. Read my book for more information about this. I don't know if I'd describe it. There's sense of awareness, and I think that is such a mystery. Jordan Peterson said, consciousness is the biggest mystery. It's so baffling how we're able to be aware, be conscious, our lights be on. Because when you create a supercomputer, and if it works as well or better than a brain, there's no evidence to say that that supercomputer has also got a consciousness, got a sentience about it, actually is aware of the world and the lights are on. Like, it's so bizarre whether you can actually even differentiate between a brain that works and does everything the brain does and actually being alive and aware that you're alive. Whether creating the brain is all you need for that to happen, but I think there's some mysterious, invisible energy that gives consciousness its sustenance and just gives it its life. And I think that energy is God related. I just think that true essence of the universe, the deeper meaning to it all, is the real sense of consciousness. I think there's an underlying field connecting us in energy where we are like manifestations of the energy and able to perceive the world. But I think the world is not merely just particle interactions and random stuff happening. I think there's a genuine meaning to our lives, and what I discuss in my what I discuss in my book is that God is that meaning. He is that source. I truly believe that, and I think at the beginning of my book I really doubted things, but the more I explored it, the more you realise, wow, there is something to this. That I think God has a place in life, and He can give meaning to life, and without that you just bare and just barely alive, and you just go about your day. You're sleepwalking through life, and that's all there is. Work, TV, bed, work, TV, bed, repeat 5 times, weekend, dread Mondays. Just we get caught in these routines, and I don't think that life is just about that. I think there's something deeply meaningful in life, and the fact that at any moment you could change things and you could go into more meaning and you could deepen your life and its meaning any time, and go for a journey, go for a search. You can write a book, you can explore your senses and explore just the truth of it all, and you can do that at any time in the many years of your life. And there's that truth and exploration and meaning that in God and everything, and that's there and it's possible. And meanwhile people just go to work, go on social media, go do their shopping, and then all of this is just routine, paying the bills, and you just get stuck into routine. And that's why I dread having a mortgage, because I think, well, that's me tied up for life. And people think, oh, mortgages are, you save money, you get equity, you're not throwing away your money. Like, what does it even mean to not throw away your money? If you've got a bed, you've got a bed. What does it mean if you've got a house that you own or you don't own? Like, what difference does that make? Having a house when you die, or not having a house when you die, that you can pass on to your children so they can have a house or not have a house when they die. And it continues, and it's just, what is the ownership of stuff is just, it's just so bizarre. It doesn't mean anything really when you've always got a bed to sleep in, and unless that's at risk, I don't think you need to concern yourself with always having the bills paid and always having the same luxuries and having the lifestyle. And you can just so easily lose yourself in the work and just the routine of it all, and you just miss out on the possibilities of life, where you could be writing a book about finding that meaning. And it's only when I've had the time and I've been able to be at home I can really think about stuff. And like I said, just I think we have taken so many things for granted and we don't explore life. And this whole situation with coronavirus is just a testament just to how good we had it and how comfortable we can be. When really, when all that falls apart, the things that are important emerge, and you realise how much they matter. Food, accommodation, family, and that's all there is. You know, looking after yourself and the basics, and we took that for granted, and we weren't focusing on the basics. We weren't focusing on the meaning. We were focusing on the routine, the daily struggle, the hustle and bustle of life, the commute, the everything, the nothing. And that's all we had. And to think that people have only just needed some apocalyptic event, needed coronavirus to wake everyone up. That's what we needed. And I don't think it will get people to live any differently. I just think there will be a concern, and it will just be a new situation where in politics, have you thought about a pandemic because of the coronavirus of 2020? You know, that's a consideration just as much as the NHS. But what it really should be hitting home to people is that life is meaningful, life is fleeting. We should be making the most of every second, and all these comforts and all these bills that we try to pay and everything that we try to maintain, like our mortgage, our family, lifestyle and everything, all that is just not that important. If you've got a family, if you've got food and you've got the ability to enjoy life, you don't need anything more. All this materialism, like Joe Rogan was saying, that how there's people just moving money, and that's their job in stock markets, just moving around the money. And it makes sense for there to be a plumber, a farmer, a teacher, a doctor, a nurse, a paramedic, all these important jobs that actually do stuff. But there's jobs that are even higher paid than that, which is just about moving around the money and investing in this and selling that and shorting that. And they're just pointless jobs that have just been fabricated by this economy, which is made of concepts that don't quite exist, but are just systems that are empty and support comfort and lifestyle when you're not actually doing anything. And sometimes I think that some jobs support other jobs, which support other jobs, like we buy from Amazon, which makes Amazon earn money, and then the Amazon employees can get enough money to buy from Amazon. And it's all self-sustaining and things linked to each other, and we get comfortable in our economic systems and our careers, and this career supports that career, and we have pets, so we have dog groomers, I don't know if that's dog walkers, and we have, TVs, so we have filmmakers, and we watch TV, and the filmmakers earn money so they can watch films, and they can buy dogs, and it's all interlinked. And the bare necessities of life is food, shelter, family. We should be farming, we should have accommodation, we should be able to talk to each other, and that's basically it. We don't need anything else. Everything else is just surplus to the need of humanity and everything. And I'm very happy that I live in a world where I'm able to realise that, and I'm able to focus on the things that matter. And I hope that everyone can really focus on what matters. But I don't think they will. I think there will be a real lack of change, and people will die and people will self-isolate, and if anything it will just push us to be even more attached and inclined to just focus on the stuff that didn't matter in the first place. Now social media will be more present than ever, and people will self-isolate, which will teach people to disconnect from society even more. And there are good parts like community and neighbours helping each other out, and there's good parts to everything, but I think we really need to wake up and find out what's important in life and not focus on the routine, the everyday, the easy, the comfort of social media and everything. And we need to just fully be content with everything. And I have been talking and I realise that I have not been moving, which is a real concern. I'll see if I can Yeah, wait a minute. Yeah, so I so the I haven't been moving, but other things have been moving. So yeah, so it's nice to join me for a second. The video has stopped working. It's just my voice at the moment. So we'll try and get it back live. So basically what I've been saying is about just the world needs to wake up and figure out what matters, and we don't need to drown ourselves in all these comforts and all these unimportant things like football, social media, Instagram, everything. Just watching Love Island, just TV, entertainment, working for consumerism, for materialism, and making sure everything works together. All these things are unimportant in the grand scheme of things and aren't truly capturing the essence of humanity, the essence of what it means to be happy. And we should be reading books, we should be talking to each other, we should be spending time with family. And if anything this virus teaches us to do, I think it should teach us to just focus and be content with what really matters. And I hope we can do that. And like Joe Rogan says, I hope that this can be a reset button for humanity and we can really be content with our life and be happy. And I hope that things can be like that, but they won't. Things might just get worse. Our comfortable lives might just get a little more comfortable, and our routines might get a little bit more routine. And I'm not sure if I'll be able to change anybody's minds, but at least I can change my own mind. I just need to think outside my current little bubble. Like when I was at school, I was so focused on the little, oh, my studies, let's get the best grade. And I couldn't conceptualize outside that realm. I couldn't get myself to think, do you know what, in the grand scheme of things, what I'm doing now, I'm just going to forget about all the mathematical techniques, all the science. I'm just going to forget about it all, and it won't matter how good I am at this. And this grade that I'm getting is good for getting into jobs and everything, but it's not that important. I can still get by, I can still have family, have a bed, make friends, and just live my life as I want. I don't need to get the best job, I don't need everything. So I just think from now on, I'm always going to have that sense that if everything fell apart, if everything that I hold dear, or shouldn't really be holding dear, but my like studying, whatever, if things were not to go as planned, there would still be a plan that you could create. There could still be opportunities, there could still be a future. And it doesn't matter that everything has to go perfectly or things have to go really well. I just think that life is good and there will always be a life to be had, I think. And to focus on the now and think that's it is a mistake, because it isn't it. There's more. There's opportunities, and you can always just do something else, and you don't have to be so concerned that everything happening now has to happen. So bearing that in mind, I think when I go to study, I just have to think, well, if I stop this studying, I could still get a job, I could still get by, and I could still make the most of the situation. And I don't think it is definitely necessary for me to achieve the current situation and get the next milestone. things could fall apart, things could go wrong, and I could drop out and things would still be okay. The job you have isn't everything. There are other jobs, and the lifestyle you try to maintain isn't everything. There are other lifestyles, and the air you breathe will always be the same air, and everything will be more or less okay. So I think that bearing all this in mind, I will just focus on the here and now and just think of the possibilities. Like, I have the internet, I could build a community for myself, I could get social contact, so I'll try and keeping on with this podcast situation, and the more I talk about stuff, the more I can think and the more I can enjoy. So bearing that all in mind, I think I will probably done enough today, but maybe tomorrow, if I've got a bit of time, I could do my daily coronavirus update if I feel like it, or not, just carry on. I just try something. It's just try a podcast, see how it goes. Like, I'm not an established comedian with a YouTube channel with a podcast, but I can do a little bit here and there. And if the odd time somebody watches, I'm happy. And hopefully those odd times people watch can turn into more often times, and then most of the time, and then all the time, and then more people all the time, and then an audience. That these are possible. This is the internet, and I live in a world where I have time to talk about stuff, and I have the means to talk about it online, and I think I will. And in testing times that we live in, such as we are now, where there's so much going on, I think it would be really valuable for me to be able to connect with the outside world and to be able to talk to people and have a community. But none of that is necessarily going to happen anytime soon. So I guess till then, I will just talk when I can. Yeah, so if I don't do it every day, that's fine. If I do it twice in a day, that's also fine. Just do it when I can, when I have a bit of free time, and don't worry about the numbers too much, and just realise that talking's good. Talking's good for you, just being able to think things through and being able to contemplate life, and just being able to live stream and it working, and be able to talk for a whole hour. That's the aim anyway for this podcast. I could have quite easily finished 3 or 4 minutes ago. I've just been dragging it out at this point. But so I just guess I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and I could talk tomorrow, so look out for the YouTube, and if you've got the bell notification on, that would be great. See if you get an email or something, you get notified of my video, and then when you can join in and listen, and hopefully we get 1 or 2 people watching, get some regular viewers. That'd be ideal. Until then, till the audience shows up, I'll keep on talking, keep you informed, daily coronavirus update, and all the rest of it. So what I might do tomorrow is I might do 1 live stream, and it's always a bit difficult to talk for so long, but I like talking, and Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Sorry for any technical difficulties throughout this stream, but we got back to it working the video. So I'm pleased to say I've done an hour. Thank you for listening to your podcast on Peter's channel, The Peter Repeater number 5. Till next time, bye for now.